The ship landed with a soft hiss on the purple soil of Nexus 7. Sergeant John Miller checked his oxygen levels one last time before the door slid open. The air here was breathable, but protocol demanded caution. 20 years in Earth's United. Defense Force had taught him that small mistakes could be deadly, especially on alien worlds. "Remember," John said to his team as they prepared to exit, "we observe only. No contact with locals unless absolutely necessary." Corporal Lisa Taylor nodded, adjusting her translator device. "Intel says the Vraxians don't respond well to surprises. They're extremely territorial." Private Eric Davis checked his weapon systems, and extremely advanced. "Their energy tech is centuries ahead of ours." John led them down the ramp and onto the planet's surface. Nexus 7 looked almost like Earth might have millions of years ago. Strange purple-leaved plants, towering rock formations, and 3 moons visible even in daylight. But the similarities ended there. In the distance, a city of gleaming metal. Towers rose against the orange sky. "That's the Vraxian capital," John said, consulting his map display. "We'll set up observation posts on that ridge. Should give us a good view without being detected." They moved quietly through the alien landscape, their adaptive camouflage blending with the environment. John couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. Something about this place felt wrong. Earth Command wanted an alliance with the Vraxians, hoping to gain access to their advanced energy technology. But information about their society was limited. From the ridge, they could see the city clearly. The Vraxian buildings were tall and sharp, made of a material that seemed to absorb and redirect light. The Vraxians themselves moved about on floating platforms, tall, 6-limbed beings with reflective skin and no visible faces, just smooth surfaces where heads should be. "Creepy," Eric whispered. Lisa adjusted her binoculars. "Different doesn't mean creepy. They're just—" She stopped suddenly. "Sarge, look at the lower levels." John shifted his view downward. Below the gleaming towers and platforms was another world entirely. Darker, dirtier, crowded with smaller structures. And there, moving slowly through the streets, were different creatures. Humanoid in shape, with delicate features and skin that seemed to glow faintly from within. They moved in single file, heads down. And around each neck, wrist, and ankle were bands of pulsing energy chains that connected them to one another. "What the hell?" John muttered. He zoomed in further. The chained beings were all female, their features gentle and almost human, except for their luminescent skin that rippled with color like the surface of a soap bubble. Each time a Vraxian passed near them, their glow dimmed and the Vraxian's body brightened. Lisa checked her database. They must be Lumidians. The reports mentioned them as a secondary species on this planet, but nothing about ... this. Eric frowned. "They're slaves? Those energy bands are drawing something from them. Look how they dim when a Vraxian gets close." John watched as a Lumidian stumbled in the line. Immediately, her energy chains pulsed brightly, and she fell to her knees, in obvious pain. A Vraxian overseer hovered nearby, somehow controlling the intensity of the punishment. "This wasn't in any of our briefings," John said quietly. His hands tightened on his binoculars. "Why are they all female? Where are the males?" They watched for hours as the sad procession continued. The Lumidians were being marched to a massive structure at the edge of the city, a facility surrounded by energy barriers. Once inside, the building would pulse with light, growing brighter as the day progressed. "It's a power plant," Lisa realized, checking readings on her scanner. "They're using the Lumidians to generate energy somehow." As night fell, they retreated to their small hidden camp to report back to Earth Command. John sent the data they'd collected, including images of the chained Lumidians. The response came quickly. Continue observation. Do not interfere with local practices. Primary mission remains securing technology exchange with dominant species. Eric looked at the message. In disbelief. They saw what's happening down there, and that's their response? John's face hardened. Those are our orders. Lisa studied the data they'd collected. The Lumidians are giving off some kind of emotional energy. The Vraxians are harvesting it. According to these readings, it's incredibly powerful and stable exactly. The kind of energy source Earth has been looking for. John stared at the distant city, now lit up against the night sky. So Earth wants to trade with slavers. We don't know their full relationship, Lisa said, though her voice lacked conviction. Maybe the Lumidians volunteered, or maybe it's their natural role in the ecosystem. Did that look voluntary to you? John asked. Did you see their faces? The next day, they moved closer to the city, using their stealth technology to blend into the crowded lower levels. Up close, the suffering of the Lumidians was even more apparent. Their eyes, large and filled with swirling colors like nebulae, were dull with pain and resignation. The energy chains left burn marks on their delicate skin. John watched as a young Lumidian collapsed on the street. Instead of helping her, the others shuffled past, eyes averted, clearly afraid of drawing attention. Azagia approached, hovering over her fallen form. With a gesture from its upper limbs, the chains around the young Lumidian intensified, causing her body to arch in agony. John's hand moved instinctively to his weapon. Lisa grabbed his arm. Don't, she whispered. You'll expose us all? The Vraxian seemed to absorb the energy directly from the Lumidian's pain. As it departed, apparently satisfied, the young alien lay motionless on the ground. The other Lumidians continued their shuffle toward the energy facility, unable or unwilling to help their fallen companion. John looked away, jaw clenched. We need more information. If we're going to understand what's happening here, we need to talk to one of them. That would violate direct orders, Eric reminded him. I know. John watched the fallen Lumidian struggle to her feet, her movements, like those of an old woman, though she appeared young. But I need to know if Earth is about to make a deal with monsters. That night, while Lisa and Eric maintained their observation post, John slipped into the lower city. The Lumidians were housed in simple structures, packed tightly together. Guards were minimal. The energy chains seemed to be control enough. John found a small building at the edge of the Lumidian quarter, away from the main patrols. Using his scanner to detect life forms, he identified a single occupant. He slipped inside through an unguarded window. The Lumidian inside backed away in fear when she saw him. Her chains were dimmed, but still active, pulsing softly in the darkness. Unlike the others, she stood straight, her eyes meeting his. Her skin glowed with soft blue and purple hues. I won't hurt you, John said, activating his translator. My name is John Miller. I'm from Earth. The Lumidian's eyes widened. The third planet, she said, her voice like distant wind chimes. We knew of it, before. Before what? John asked. What happened to your people? Why are you chained? She looked at her energy bonds. My name is Alara, and there is much to tell you, Earth soldier. But first, why do you care what happens to us? No one else has in 100 years. John looked into Alara's strange, swirling eyes. They reminded him of galaxies trapped in glass. He lowered his weapon completely, trying to appear less threatening. I care because slavery is wrong where I come from, he said simply. No one should live in chains. Alara's glow brightened slightly, color shifting to a warmer hue. Your words are kind, but words cannot break these. She lifted her wrists, the energy chains humming softly. Tell me what happened, John urged. How did your people end up like this? Alara moved to a small window, peering out at the dark streets before speaking. A century ago, Lumedians were free. We lived in harmony with the natural energies of this world. Our cities floated among the clouds. We were scholars, artists, healers. Her voice grew softer. Then the Vraxians came from across the stars. They discovered our ability to transform emotion into pure energy. You can create energy from feelings? John asked, fascinated despite the grim story. All living beings produce emotional energy, Alara explained. Lumedians can channel it, shape it, use it to power our world. The Vraxians wanted this power for themselves, but they could not produce it. So they took us instead, she continued her sad tale. The Vraxians had attacked without warning. Their weapons targeted the male Lumedians first, killing most of them. The females were captured and fitted with the energy chains, devices that forced them to channel their emotional energy directly to Vraxian collectors. The chains turn our greatest gift into a curse, Alara said. They draw out our life force along with our emotional energy. Most Lumedians live only a third of their natural lifespan now. John's hands clenched into fists. And Earth wants to trade with these monsters. Your people do not know, Alara said. The Vraxians are careful to hide what they do from other advanced species. They show only their gleaming towers and impressive technology. Why are there no male Lumedians? John asked. Were they all killed? Alara's colors darkened to deep blues and purples. Not all. Some escaped. Others were hidden. The Vraxians hunt them still, because male Lumedians cannot be controlled by the chains. Their emotional energy is ... different. More chaotic. Less easily harvested. And she stopped suddenly, looking afraid. And what? John pressed. When male and female Lumedians join, their combined energy can break the chains, she whispered. That is why the Vraxians keep us separated. That is why. They continued to hunt any males who might remain. John heard a soft beep from his communicator. Lisa was trying to reach him. I have to go, he said reluctantly. But I'll return, I promise. Alara reached out, her fingers stopping just short of touching him. Be careful, John Miller from Earth. The Vraxians sense emotions too, especially dangerous ones like hope. John slipped back to camp just before dawn. Lisa and Eric were waiting, their faces tense with worry. Breaking protocol to go sightseeing? Lisa asked sharply. I made contact with one of them, John admitted. A Lumedian named Alara, Eric groaned. That's direct violation of orders, Sarge. She told me everything, John continued, ignoring Eric's comment. The Vraxians invaded their world 100 years ago. They're using the Lumedians as living batteries, draining their life force to power their technology. Lisa's anger faded, replaced by scientific curiosity. How does it work? John explained what Alara had told him about the Lumedians' ability to transform emotional energy and how the Vraxians exploited this gift through the chains. That explains the readings we've been getting from the power facility, Lisa said, checking her datapad. The energy signature is unlike anything we've seen before, clean, powerful, and self-renewing. And based on suffering, John added grimly. Eric paced nervously. Look, this is terrible, but it's not our mission. We're here to establish trade relations, not judge alien cultures. Would you trade with slavers? John asked him directly. Eric looked away. Earth Command makes those decisions, not us. The next day, Lisa used their long-range scanners to access Vraxian historical records. Her language skills and tech expertise allowed her to bypass basic security measures. What she found confirmed Alara's story and revealed even more disturbing details. The Vraxians have been doing this across multiple star systems, Lisa reported, her voice tight with anger. The Lumedians are just their latest victims. They find species with unique energy production abilities, conquer them, and use them until they're extinct. John studied the images on Lisa's screen, other alien species, now gone, who had suffered the same fate, now threatening the Lumidians. "Have to report this to Earth Command," he said. The response from Command came quickly. Information noted. Continue mission as instructed. Diplomatic relations with Vraxians remain priority. Do not interfere with local customs. John read the message twice, unable to believe what he was seeing. "They don't care," he said finally. "They want the technology, no matter the cost." That night, John returned to Ilara. He found her with 3 other Lumidians, all watching him with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Their chains were dimmed, but still active. "These are my sisters in suffering," Ilara explained. "They wanted to see the human who cares about Lumidian freedom." One of the others, smaller with pale pink and yellow hues, stepped forward. "Is it true your kind does not enslave others for energy?" she asked in a whispery voice. "We have a bad history with slavery," John admitted. "We've learned it's wrong. To own other thinking beings." The Lumidians exchanged glances, their colors shifting in what seemed to be a form of communication. "We have something to show you," Ilara said finally. "Something dangerous to know. If we share this, there is no going back. Your life will be in danger too." John thought about Earth Command's orders, about his duty as a soldier. Then he looked at the chains around Ilara's delicate wrists, at the burn marks they left on her luminescent skin. "Show me," he said. Ilara led him through hidden passages beneath the Lumidian quarter. The other 3 Lumidians followed, their glow providing just enough light to see. They descended into what appeared to be ancient catacombs, structures that predated the Vraxian invasion. In a small chamber, deep underground, Ilara pressed her hand against a wall. It glowed in response, revealing a hidden door. Beyond it was a sight that made John catch his breath. A male Lumidian, taller and broader than the females, with skin that glowed deep gold and crimson. He was free of chains and surrounded by what looked like ancient technology. Around him were maps and diagrams of the Vraxian city, focusing on one building in particular, the Central Control Facility. "This is Orion, my brother," Ilara said, "one of the few male Lumidians who survived. He leads our resistance." Orion stood, his golden eyes studying John carefully. "So you are the human soldier who questions his orders," he said. "We have been waiting for someone like you." John looked at the maps on the walls. "What are you planning?" Orion's glow intensified. "To break the chains, all of them, at once." John studied the maps on the wall. The Central Control Facility stood in the heart of the Vraxian city, heavily guarded and nearly impossible to reach. "You want to attack the most secure building in the city?" John asked. "That's suicide." Orion's golden glow pulsed steadily. "Not attack, infiltrate. The control facility houses the master key to all energy chains. One command could free every Lumidian on the planet." "We have tried before," Ilara added softly. 3 attempts. 9 lives. Lost. John examined the detailed plans. "What's the problem? Why haven't you succeeded?" "The system requires Vraxian genetic authentication," Orion explained. "No Lumidian can access it." "The controls reject our touch." John thought for a moment. "But they might accept mine. Humans aren't in their system yet." Hope flickered across the Lumidians' faces, their skin colors brightening. But Orion remained cautious. "Perhaps. But getting inside remains the greatest challenge. Vraxians sense emotional energy. They would detect us immediately." John returned to camp before dawn, his mind racing with possibilities. Lisa noticed his distraction during their morning observation. "You went back to the Lumidian quarter," she said. It wasn't a question. John nodded. "I met their resistance. They're planning to free everyone." Eric looked up sharply from his equipment. Sarge, that's way beyond breaking protocol. That's interfering with an alien civilization. We could start a war. We're already at war, John replied. The Vraxians are at war with the Lumidians, have been for a century. We're just choosing which side to support. Lisa hesitated. Command was clear about. Command doesn't know what we know, John interrupted. Or maybe they do and don't care. Either way, I can't watch this happen and do nothing. Later that day, they witnessed something. That changed everything. In the main square of the Vraxian city, a public punishment was taking place. A female Lumidian had attempted escape. Her energy chains were set to maximum output, draining her life force so quickly that her once vibrant skin had faded to a dull gray. The Vraxians gathered around, absorbing the excess energy, feeding off. Her pain. The other Lumidians were forced to watch, their own chains pulsing in warning. Lisa turned away, her face pale. That's not punishment. That's torture. Even Eric looked sick. This isn't right. John watched until the end, when the Lumidian collapsed, her glow completely extinguished. The Vraxians discarded her body like trash. I'm going to help them, John said quietly, with or without permission. Are you with me? Lisa nodded immediately. Eric hesitated longer, but finally agreed. Someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself killed, he said. That night, they met with the Lumidian resistance. John brought Earth technology that might help scanning devices, communication equipment, and most importantly, a genetic modifier. Lisa explained how it worked. This can temporarily alter surface cellular structure, she said. It might fool the Vraxian scanners into thinking John is one of them. But it only lasts about an hour. Orion studied the device. The yearly alignment festival begins tomorrow. Security at the central facility will be reduced as many guards attend the celebration. That's our window, John said. He turned to Lisa and Eric. I'll need you both to create a distraction near the south entrance. Something big enough to draw attention, but not so big it triggers a full lockdown. Lisa smiled grimly. I can overload their power grid in that sector. It won't last long, but it should create confusion. I'll set up a perimeter, Eric added. Make sure you have an escape route. Elara stepped forward. I will guide you through the lower levels. Some passages are hidden from Vraxian sensors. The plan took shape. John would use the genetic modifier to disguise himself as a Vraxian official. Elara would guide him through hidden tunnels to reach the central facility. Once inside, he would need to reach the main control room and deactivate the master system for the energy chains. There is something you should know, Orion said seriously. If you succeed, the sudden release of all Lumidian energy at once will create a massive power surge. It could harm anyone nearby. Including you? John asked Elara. She nodded. The risk is worth taking. As dawn approached, John prepared to return to camp. Elara walked with him to the secret entrance. Why are you doing this? She asked. Your leaders ordered you not to interfere. You risk everything, your career, even your life. John thought about the Lumidian who had died in the square. Where I come from, we have a saying, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. I've seen too much evil. Here to do nothing. Elara's colors shifted to a warm golden hue, similar to her brother's. In our language, we have a word, Sorrelin. It means one who brings light to darkness. You are Sorrelin John Miller. The next day, the alignment festival began. The upper levels of the Vraxian city glowed with celebrations as the 3 moons of Nexus 7 aligned in the orange sky. Many Vraxians left their posts to join the festivities. John met Lisa and Eric at their camp one last time. Final equipment check, Lisa said, handing John the genetic modifier. This will let you appear Vraxian to their scanners. But remember, it only works for an hour. After that, alarms will sound. Eric gave John a small device, emergency beacon. Activate it if things go wrong. We'll come running. John nodded, looking at his teammates. If this works, we'll be breaking about 50 regulations. And if it doesn't work, we won't be around to face the court-martial, Eric said with a grim smile. Lisa squeezed John's arm. Be careful. Those Lumidians need you. As the 3 moons reached alignment overhead, John made his way to the meeting. Point. Elara was waiting with 3 other Lumidians, their chains dimmed for the festival day. The passages are clear, she whispered. Are you ready? John activated the genetic modifier. The device hummed softly as it altered his cellular structure. His skin took on the reflective quality of a Vraxian. Let's end this, he said. They moved through hidden tunnels beneath the city, passages from the old Lumidian civilization that the Vraxians had never discovered. The walls glowed faintly when the Lumidians touched them, responding to their natural energy dot as they neared the central facility. John could feel the power humming through the walls. This was the heart of the Vraxian control system. From here, you must go alone, Elara said, stopping at a small access panel. This will take you directly to the lower level of the control center. The master system is 3 levels up in the main chamber. John checked his equipment one last time. When I deactivate the chains, get as many of your people to safety as possible. There will be chaos. Elara touched his hand, her fingers leaving a brief trace of luminescence on his skin. Remember, once the chains are broken, the Vraxians will lose their power source, but they still have weapons. John nodded. 1 hour to change the fate of your entire species. No pressure. He squeezed through the access panel and into the heart of enemy territory. The central facility was vast, filled with humming machinery and pulsing energy conduits. Everything was powered by the suffering of the Lu-Mid-INS. John touched his communicator. I'm in, starting the clock now. Lisa's voice came through, tense but clear. Distraction in 3, 2, 1. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Alarms wailed throughout the facility. John pressed himself against a wall as Vraxian guards rushed past, heading toward Lisa's distraction at the south entrance. His disguise was working. They paid no attention to him. South Sector power grid. Failure, Lisa reported through his earpiece. They think it's an accident from the festival energy surge. You've got maybe 10 minutes before they realize it was deliberate. John moved quickly through the corridors, following the map Orion had provided. The central facility was a maze of energy conduits and control rooms. Everything pulsed with the stolen life force of the Lumidians. He reached a lift that would take him to the upper levels. 2 Vraxian technicians stood nearby, their reflective bodies absorbing energy from a nearby conduit. John straightened his posture and approached confidently. The genetic modifier made him appear Vraxian, but he couldn't speak their language. He had to rely on body language and authority. He gestured impatiently at the lift, mimicking the imperious movements he'd observed in Vraxian commanders. The technicians moved aside immediately, lowering their upper limbs in what seemed to be a sign of respect. Inside the lift, John checked his timer. 45 minutes left before his disguise failed. The lift rose smoothly to the 3rd level, where the master control system was located. I'm approaching the main chamber, he whispered into his communicator. Any problems outside? Eric's in position for extraction, Lisa replied. The Lumidian resistance is standing by. But we've got movement in the upper city. I think some of the Vraxian leaders are returning from the festival. The lift doors opened to a vast circular room. In the center stood a crystal-like structure that glowed with pulsing multicolored light, the same colors as Lumidian skin. This was the heart of the energy chain system around the crystal, Vraxian operators monitored control panels. At the far side of the room stood a Vraxian different from the others. Taller, with more limbs and a body that seemed to absorb more light. A Commander. John moved toward an empty control panel, trying to look like he belonged. The layout matched Orion's. Description: a central authentication point that controlled the entire chain network. One command could free every Lumidian on the planet. The Commander turned suddenly, focusing on John. Something about his movement must have seemed wrong. The Commander made a sharp gesture to nearby guards. John abandoned stealth and sprinted toward the central crystal. Guards moved to intercept him, their limbs extending into weapon-like appendages. Cover blown. John shouted into his communicator, going for direct access. He reached the crystal just as energy blasts hit the floor around him. The crystal reacted. To his touch, flashing red in alarm. It needed Vraxian authentication. John pulled out a second device Lisa had prepared, a genetic override. He slammed it against the crystal surface. The device sparked and smoked as it forced a connection. Authentication rejected. A voice announced in the Vraxian language, the translator in John's ear providing meaning. Intruder alert. The Commander approached, energy gathering around his limbs. Human, he said, the words sounding like a curse. We knew your kind would come eventually, always interfering with natural order. Enslaving an entire species isn't natural, John replied, still working on the override device. It's evil. The Commander's body pulsed with absorbed energy. They exist to serve us. Their purpose is to provide energy, just as your species will, once we establish relations with Earth. That confirmation of the Vraxians' ultimate plan gave John renewed determination. He adjusted the override device, trying different frequencies. Time's running out, Lisa warned. In his ear, your disguise will fail in 15 minutes. The Commander raised a limb to strike John down. At that moment, the facility shook with a massive explosion. Eric had set off his diversion. Now, John? Eric shouted through the communicator. While they're distracted, John slammed his hand against the crystal, alongside the override device. Pain shot through his body as the crystal tried to read his genetic structure. The device sparked violently, creating a bridge between John's human DNA and the Vraxian authentication system. The Commander grabbed John with two powerful limbs, lifting him away from the crystal. Your species is young and foolish, he hissed. Did you think we wouldn't be prepared for resistance? The chains are our creation. Only we can control them. John struggled against the grip, feeling his ribs crack under the pressure. You're wrong, he gasped. The chains were never yours. You stole them, like you stole the Lumidians' freedom. With a final desperate move, John pressed his palm against the Commander's reflective skin, creating a connection between them. The override device, still attached to the crystal, formed a circuit human, Vraxian, and the master control. The pain was overwhelming as energy coursed through John's body. He felt like he was being torn apart at a molecular level. But something was happening. The crystal's color changed, shifting from red to a swirling mixture of Lumidian hues. What are you doing? The Commander demanded, trying to break the connection, but finding himself unable to let go. Something impossible, John managed to say through clenched teeth. A human and a Vraxian working together. The crystal pulsed with new energy not stolen, but freely given. John poured everything into it, his anger at the injustice, his compassion for the Lumidians, his hope for their freedom. Emotions. The Vraxians had never bothered to harvest. Focused into pure power, the Commander screamed as the feedback loop grew stronger. The crystal began to crack, light spilling from within. Authentication accepted, the system announced suddenly. Master. Control accessed. With his last conscious thought, John gave the command, "Release all chains." The crystal shattered in a blinding flash of light. Energy surged outward in a wave that knocked everyone in the room to the floor. John felt himself falling, his body no longer able to withstand the strain. Through the facility's windows, he could see energy chains throughout the city flickering and dying. Thousands of Lumedians, suddenly free, their natural glow brightening the orange sky. The commander lay nearby, his reflective body now dull and powerless. "What have you done?" he whispered. "You've destroyed everything." "No," John said, his vision darkening. "I've given them back what was always theirs." As consciousness slipped away, John heard Lisa's frantic voice in his ear. "John, the energy surge is massive. All the chains are down. Lumedians everywhere are free." A smile crossed John's face as darkness claimed him. The mission was accomplished. The alien girls no longer lived in chains dotting the streets below. Alara felt her chains dissolve into nothing. For the first time in her adult life, she could feel her full power flowing freely. All around her, other Lumedians experienced the same. Liberation, their combined glow illuminating the city like a new sun. "He did it," she whispered, looking up at the central facility where John had sacrificed himself. Sorelin. As one, the freed Lumedians raised their hands toward the sky. Their combined energy formed a protective shield around the city, preventing Varaxian ships from escaping or weapons from firing. The balance of power had shifted in an instant. Orion emerged from hiding, joining his sister in the street. "Find the human," he ordered the gathered Lumedians. "He must not die for our freedom." In the central facility, surrounded by fallen Varaxians and the shattered remains of the control crystal, John Miller lay motionless. His mission complete, his sacrifice made. But as Alara reached his side, she placed her hands on his chest, her natural energy flowing into his still form. Other Lumedians joined her, forming a circle of light around the fallen human soldier. "Return to us, Sorelin," Alara whispered. "Your light is not yet meant to fade." Light and darkness swirled around John. He felt weightless, drifting between life and death. Voices called to him from far away, but he couldn't understand the words. Pain had vanished, replaced by peaceful emptiness. Then he felt warmth spreading through his chest. It moved outward to his limbs, pulling him back from the void. Colors filled his vision: blues, purples, golds, the colors of Lumedian energy. John opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by a circle of Lumedians. Their hands were extended toward him, their skin glowing brightly. Alara knelt beside him, her palms pressed against his heart. "He returns," she said, her voice filled with relief. John tried to sit up, but found his body too weak. "Did it work?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "See for yourself," Orion said, gesturing toward the window. Lisa and Eric helped John to his feet and supported him as he looked out over the city. The sight took his breath away. Thousands of Lumedians filled the streets, their natural glow, transforming the once dark lower city into a sea of living light. Above them, the Varaxian towers stood dark and powerless. "The chains are broken," Ilara confirmed, "all of them. Every Lumedian is free." "What about the Varaxians?" John asked. "Without our energy, their technology fails," Orion explained. "Their weapons, their ships, their city all powerless." Eric nodded toward the fallen commander. "They're not all dead, but they're weakened. They can't hurt anyone now." John looked at his hands, remembering the moment when his DNA had somehow merged with the Varaxian authentication system. How did it work? The crystal should have rejected me. Lisa examined the remains of the override device. "I think it wasn't just the device. When you connected yourself to both the commander and the crystal, you created something new, a bridge the system couldn't categorize as either human or Varaxian. Your emotions did the rest, Elara added. The crystal was designed to channel emotional energy. When you poured your feelings into it, especially your desire to free us, it responded. Outside, more Lumedians were gathering. Word of the human who had broken their chains was spreading through the city. They wanted to see this strange alien who had risked everything for their freedom. We should go, Lisa urged. Earth Command will have detected the energy surge. They'll send ships to investigate. John nodded, but as they moved toward the exit, he stumbled. The energy transfer had healed his critical injuries, but his body was still damaged from the strain. You need rest, Elara said. Not here, John replied. Not until I know your people are safe. They made their way out of the facility. In the streets below, a path opened through the crowd of glowing Lumedians. They reached out as John passed, their fingers leaving traces of light on his uniform. Many whispered, Sorrelin. As he walked by Dot at the edge of the city, they found their ship untouched. The Earth team prepared for departure, while John said his goodbyes to Elara and Orion. What will happen now? John asked. We rebuild, Orion said. The Vraxians cannot harm us anymore, but they are still here. We will find a way to live together, not as master and slave, but as equals. And the male Lumedians? John asked. The ones in hiding? Elara smiled, her color shifting to warm gold. Already emerging. By nightfall, families long separated will be reunited. John looked back at the city, now transformed by Lumedian light. Earth Command won't be happy. They wanted Vraxian technology, not a revolution. Then tell them the truth, Elara urged. Tell them the technology they wanted was built on suffering. Tell them there is a better way. She placed her hand on John's chest, and a small glow remained even after she pulled away. We have learned that we can share our energy freely without harm to ourselves. Perhaps one day, Earth and Lumid can be allies. Lisa called from the ship. John, we need to go. Command is demanding an update. John clasped Elara's hand one last time. Will I see you again? The stars connect us now, she replied. And you carry a piece of our light within you. We will find each other again. The journey back to Earth was tense. John expected to be court-martialed for disobeying direct orders and interfering with an alien civilization. Lisa and Eric stood by him, insisting they would share whatever punishment came. But as they approached Earth, something unexpected happened. News of the Vraxian energy system and how it enslaved an entire species had reached Earth Command ahead of them. Public opinion had turned against any alliance with the Vraxians. Instead of punishment, John found himself explaining the Lumedian situation to Earth's leaders. He told them everything: the chains, the resistance, and the possibility of a new kind of energy partnership based on cooperation rather than exploitation. The Lumedians can teach us how to generate clean energy through emotional resonance, he explained, not by enslaving them, but by working together. 6 months later, John stood on the surface of Nexus 7 again. This time, he wasn't a soldier on a reconnaissance mission, but Earth's first ambassador to the free Lumedian people. The city had changed dramatically. The dark Vraxian towers now stood alongside new Lumedian structures that seemed to be made of solid light. Vraxians and Lumedians worked side by side, learning to coexist after a century of oppression. Elara met him at the landing pad, her glow brighter than he remembered. Welcome back, John Niller. It's good to be back, he said, smiling. Earth has sent scientists and diplomats. They're eager to learn from your people. Elara led him through the city to a new building at its center of school, where young Lumedians and Vraxians studied together. Inside, children of both species looked up with curiosity as the human entered. They want to hear your story, Elara explained. How the human soldier freed the Lumedians. John looked at the young faces watching him. It's not just my story. It belongs to all of us who fought for freedom." A small Lumedian girl approached him, her skin glowing soft pink and blue. "Is it true you broke all the chains at once?" She asked. John knelt to meet her eyes. "The chains were already breaking. I just helped finish what your people started long ago." "Will you tell us what Earth is like?" a young Vraxian asked, surprising John with its interest. "I'd be happy to," John replied. "And perhaps someday you can visit my world." That evening, John stood with Alara on a balcony overlooking the city. The 3 moons of Nexus 7 shone in the sky, illuminating a world transformed. "Do you ever regret it?" Alara asked. "Disobeying your orders? Risking everything for people you barely knew?" John touched the small spot on his chest that still glowed faintly with Lumedian energy, the mark left when they had saved his life. "Never." He said simply, "Some chains need to be broken, no matter the cost." Below them, free Lumedians moved through the streets, their natural light mingling with the moonlight. No longer in chains, no longer suffering. They had begun to build a new future one where different species could learn from each other rather than exploit one another. And it had all started with one human soldier who couldn't stand by and watch injustice, even on a world that wasn't his own.